Hi friends, it's Becky and I have a project that I'd like to share with you today using beads from the Sam's Bead Box Sassy 60s bead box. It has so many gloriously bright colors and we got this really fun seed bead mix. So my project is going to be a mix of techniques. I'm going to be doing some wire wrapping to make some wire links, but I'm also using some beading thread and a modified version of brick stitch to stitch onto these triangle links that came in the box with the seed bead mix. So we're going to get some links like this that we're going to make a necklace out of with these other links. And I'm also going to be stitching some of these beads onto this fantastic focal that we've got here. And then we're going to put it all together with some jump rings, and I've got some head pins and ear wires for some earrings because I'm going to be using some of these drops for that. I'm also going to use this drop in my focal design. But what I'll do is I will show you how to make the wire wrapped link. We'll do that first. Then we'll get into the beading onto these forms here. We'll do this link first, and then we'll go to our focal, and the focal will be a combination of both the beading thread and the craft wire, and we'll make a big focal like that. Then we'll put it all together, and at the end of it we'll have a little sassy jewelry set with all of these fun, delicious, bright colors that we've got. Tools that I'm going to be using, I've got a size 12 beading needle. I've already got some fireline. This is 6-pound fireline that is threaded onto that. I'm going to be using chain nose pliers, round nose pliers, and flush cutters for my wire work. I'll also use the chain nose cutters to assemble this. And I'm going to be using as well a little thread zapper for burning down the ends of my threads. So I think we should get started with this. I also want to just kind of point out that I'm doing kind of a mixed metals look. I've got the antique bronze and the gold look. So I've got gold for this, and then I've got the antique bronze here, and then I'm going to be using the antique bronze jump rings for that. I'm just going to move some of these findings out of the way so we're not confusing my camera while I'm demonstrating things. So let's get these guys out of the way. I'm also going to move these out of the way until it's time to put them together. All right, so here are the bits that we're going to be making. The first I'm going to do is a wire wrapped link. I'm going to take some 22 gauge wire, and I'm just straightening this out with my fingers first of all. I like to, when I do wrapped loops, to make my link off of the spool, because then I don't have to guess how long I need to cut it. I can just put my beads on it first, make my first loop, and then measure how much more I'll need and cut it after the first loop is made. So let's make our first loop. I'm going to take my round nose pliers, and about 2 inches, 2.5 down from there, I'm going to make a little bend away from me using my pliers, and then I'm going to use my finger and I'm going to push that wire up and around the top of those round nose pliers. Open the jaw, rotate your pliers to move that out of the way, and keep going around until you've got it just crossing over like that. I'm just going to adjust that, and then you can hold onto the loop with your other pliers and then use your fingers or another set of pliers to push the end of that wire around the neck a few times. I'm going to go around about 4 times. And once I've got that satisfactorily wrapped, I'll snip off my excess using my flush cutters and push those beads up to the loop that I just made. And now I like to measure 3 fingers down from the bottom of my last bead. Measure with your fingers, but cut the wire, not your fingers. then once that's done, I'm going to want to make another loop on this side. So I'm going to be bending my wire again, but I'm going to do it with a little bit of space between my bead and where the bend is by holding onto it with my chain nose pliers and then bending that over the top away from me. I'm going to do a loop in the same way that I did before, and approximately the same part of this barrel that I did before. It's about a third of the way from the point. And I'm just holding that above there. Push the wire up and over, rotate, and then bring the wire around. And then you can just wrap this around. And you'll have a wrapped loop link. For this design, I've made 10 of these links, 5 for each side of the necklace. And I cannot look at this without craving orange juice. I just can't. Absolutely can't do that. All right, so let's move that out of the way. Let's get started on our little bead weaving part of our design. I'm just moving this over. I've got this darker mat here so that you can see my thread and the beads a little bit easier. I'm also going to scooch in so that you can see what I'm doing easier as well. Now for this, I decided to use specific colors for each link. And for this link, I'm going to be using pink. A lot of the other colors in the other links, it's blue and yellow. So I decided to have 2 more pink links than I had the blue or the yellow ones. Now, at the end of my thread, not where my needle is, because my needle's on this end, and this is on this. You do not need very much thread for each of these links, by the way. A couple of feet will do ya, but you could pull off like an arm's length, no more than an arm's length, and do multiple of them with the same thread without having to thread your beading needle if you wanted to do that. So I'm going to leave myself 3 or 4 inches of tail thread just to make it easier to tie it on at the end. And I'm just going to do an overhand knot here. This doesn't need to be double knotted or anything because we're going to be knotting that later. And I'm going to kind of move it out of the way and hold it so that it is not getting in the way when I'm doing my beading. I'm going to start a brick stitch along this side of this finding. I'm going to start it with a single bead. Usually you might start a brick stitch with 2 beads. I'm going to do a single one because I kind of want to get this one bead better secured before I start adding things. So I'm going to go through my finding, either back to front or front to back, and maybe move some of these tools out of the way so that you don't catch your thread on them when you're doing that. Pro tip. All right, so I went through here, and then I'm going to go up through this bead. I just don't want this end flapping around at all. There we go. So it has made a little thread bridge along the end, but because I'm using a very light colored, I'm using the crystal thread, it's not that visible next to the this light colored bead. Next, I'm going to pick up 2 beads, not 1 bead for my brick stitch. I'm going to pick up a gold bead and then the next pink bead. And if you're doing yellow, you would do a gold bead and then the yellow bead. If you're doing blue, you do a gold bead and then the blue bead. I like to hold the bead up against the finding while I'm putting the thread through. I went from back to front through the finding, and now I'm going to go up through the last bead that I added, not both of them, just the one, along the front of the finding, so that the thread goes around through the finding and latches that on there. That's how brick stitch is done. This is a modified brick stitch because I'm not just adding a single bead next to it. The little thread bridge between each of these beads is now going to be holding on that gold bead like a little picot. So let's do that again. Let's pick up a gold bead and a pink bead. And again, I like to just hold my finger up against there so the beads don't go through with the thread. And then go through just the pink bead, not the gold one. And I'm just going to keep going until I get to the end of this corner. I want to have 7 pink beads and 6 gold beads along here. I'll meet you right back there when I get here to this corner. All right, so here we go. I have 7 pink beads and 3 gold beads on this one side. And I'm right here at the end, and this is how I'm going to turn the corner so that I can do the other side. I want to help this bead on the end kind of adhere a little bit better to that corner so it doesn't flip around or travel over to the other side. So it's coming up out of that bead. That was after I had anchored it down. I'm going to go through the finding again so that I'm basically doing a loop around that bead and the finding like that. I'm going to go back up through this bead, and I'm going to want to come out through the bottom of one of the beads near the end so that I can get my thread over here to the other side. So to do that, I'm going to go through this gold bead here. Sorry, I've got to keep my fingers on here, else it'll go flying a little bit. And then I'm going to go down through the bead next to it, this second bead from the end. Just going down. And it looks like I'm coming out of the front side of this. I'm going to move my thread through the finding towards the back and flip this over. And I'm going to find that thread bridge, that little piece of thread that's coming out of the top of this and going under. I'm just going to slide my needle through that to help anchor this thread a little bit better so it's not stretching across that. Now I'm going to go back towards the front. And I'm ready to start my second side. So I'm going to start it much the same way. I'm going to pick up a single pink seed bead, get that right on there, go through the finding, try not to let go, and then I want to go through the finding in the same, there we go, so that it will sit up on, I want to go through the seed bead, there we go, like that. You can use your fingernail just to kind of hold it there while you pull the thread tight. Pull the thread, not the needle. I'm going to start the rest of this modified brick stitch by picking up my gold bead and my pink bead. Go through the finding, up through the pink bead, then the gold bead and the pink bead, through the finding, and then up through the pink bead. I'm going to keep going until I have the same number of beads on the other side of this as I had on the first. And if your beads are a little bit tipped over to the side, you can adjust them. You can move them around a little bit to get them in the array that you want them to be. And this is it. It's a pretty quick little addition that you can make to these diamond findings to just add some more bling, to add some more color, to add some more sass, because this is seriously sassy. I'm about halfway done with this. I'm just going to keep going until we get to the end because it's not going to take me that long to get to the end, and then I'll show you how to finish this off. We'll tie it off and then we'll burn off the edges, and we will move on to stitching our focal after I'm done with this. I love when we get a little bead mix in our Sam's bead box because it just adds so much more that you can do with the box. Even if there isn't a bead mix that comes with it, there will often be add-ons that you can get. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So I do need one more. Good, I didn't miscount. All right, so this is the last one. I'm going to anchor it on the same way I did before, going up through the bead. I'm going to want to do the same thing on this end to terminate it that I did on the other side over here. I'm going to go through the finding again and then back up through this bead one more time just to anchor it on a little bit better so it's not flapping around wildly while being worn or catching on things. And then back down through that second bead next to it. Through the finding towards the back. I'm not going through any beads when I move it, I'm just changing its orientation. I'm going to find that thread. Oop. You can see that thread a little bit. I'm going to find that thread, put my needle through it. This is the kind of project you might need one of those magnifying lamps for, because these are tiny beads and sometimes the thread can be a little hard to see. That's okay. All right, now I've got it back towards the front. I'm going to tie both of these ends of my thread together. And for this, I am going to do a surgeon's knot. So over, under, tie it tight, and then around through the loop twice. 1, 2. Let's not get caught on the beads when we're tying our knot. There we go. And now I can use my thread burner. This. There we go. And I have a little beaded link that we can use in our necklace. So let's get, since I've got the beads out still, let's change gears and let's do some brick stitching onto here. This will be just regular brick stitch, but I discovered that these little channels here are the perfect size for an 11/0 seed bead to fit in. So I'm going to tie the end of my thread onto one of these on this inner circle here, like so. This is double-sided, so it doesn't matter which side is the right side and which side is the wrong side. Now for this, I am going to tie this on twice because I'm not going to be working my way back through to do a knot after I finish this. So I'm going to do a proper knot with that. And now I'm going to pick up, let's start with the yellow. Let's get this in here. I'm going to pick up just a single yellow seed bead. Oop. And I'm just going to do a little trick that I saw Danielle Wicks do, where you pass the end of your thread through your seed bead when you start a brick stitch. So you've got both of those threads going through, and then you just kind of pull on both ends, and it helps it to kind of sit properly. I just move that over there. All right. Now I'm going to go through this section. This part's going to take a little bit of maneuvering. So it's coming out of the top of that seed bead there. This is the bottom. I'm going to pick up another yellow seed bead. I'm going to do a single color for each of these loops. I've got this on here. Move it down to next to that bit. Go through the center loop here. And then through here and into the seed bead. And do you see how the thread path is going? This is the top of the seed bead, and that's the bottom, and the thread is coming out of the bottom. I'm going to go in through the direction or the side of the seed bead that my thread is already coming out of, not the one that it goes into. It'll loop it onto here, and it's a little bit out of the finding, but once I get that tightened up a little bit, it moves right into place and it locks right in there. So I'm going to keep doing that. Pick up a seed bead, move it down there, go through that center bit, and then through here to the other side. I'm holding it with my finger. I know it's a little bit hard to see. Try turning it over so you can see it a little bit better what I'm doing. It's a little bit easier for me to do it facing the other way, but I want to turn it over. So I'm holding it here. I'm going to go through. This is exactly what I was doing. It's just a little more awkward for me, but it's easier for you to see what I'm doing. Now that it's through that line there, I can go through here. And this is the side of the seed bead that the thread is coming out of, is this side over here. So I'm going to go through the finding, try to maneuver that hole into the right place, the right direction. If I can. There we go. Now I've got that. Oop. See, that's why it's awkward to do, but I want to make it easier for you guys to see. There we go. And that's what I'm doing. I'm going to fill up the rest of this section with my yellow beads. And after I do my yellow beads, I'm going to show you how to jump up to the next section. And I think we'll do blue for the next section. Okay? Alright, so here's the last one, and I wanted to show it because it might be a little bit trickier to get to. There's not a lot of maneuvering room here for me to try and get through to that other side. So I've just got the seed bead. It hasn't gone through. I went through the center hole, and it's just waiting for me to go back through it again. So because it's a little awkward to get to, I'm going to go ahead and go around the finding first, and then, without pulling this taut yet, go up through my seed bead, if I can get it. There we go. Because that's going to make it a little bit easier. There isn't a lot of room for maneuvering here at the end of the row. There usually is at the rest of the row, but not there. All right. So it's very easy for us to, hold on, why are you? I think I need to tighten my loops here. my thread bridges are very loose, which is not at all what I wanted. There we go. It was those first ones when I was trying to demo it. The rest of them, it seems, are just fine. Alright, so now that I've got my thread bridges all tightened up, and this is all on there, so I'm going to be jumping up here to the next one. So I'm just going to go through my finding here, so it's at the front of it. I'm going to pick up my blue bead. And then I'm going to go through my finding, through that row just below it. I'm going through the finding, not necessarily through the thread bridges below, because I want to get it attached to the finding, not to the beads below. All right, where are we coming out of this guy? Right there. Oof. It's unnecessarily awkward, but that's okay, because we're gonna get all these guys in here. I'm just gonna do the same thing that I did before, only it's gonna be a little bit harder because I'm not going to have the maneuverability that I had before to get through. So I'm coming through the back. I'm gonna go through this finding under here, and then through my bead around the other side. Tighten that up, make sure my thread bridge is nice and tight, and just give it the thread a good tug after each of those to help it sit in place. And this one actually is going through the thread bridge as well as the finding. Oop, but it's also picked up a yellow bead, so let's back that out. I'm just going to get that yellow bead off of here by going back through it. There we go, pop that off. All right, now I can go through there. Do you see how I'm going through the thread bridge too? You can do this. You don't have to though, because the finding will be enough of an anchor. Alright, so I'm going to go ahead and fill up the space for these blue beads. I'm going to jump up to this next row the same way and do the pink beads. So once I've got all my blue beads and my pink beads in place, I'm going to join you back here and I will show you how to finish this up. All right, so here we are. I've got my pink beads all stitched into place, and I'm coming up out of the top of this last bead that I put into place. I'm going to skip over here to this next bead and just go through it from top to bottom, just to move my thread so that it's coming out of the inner part of this instead of the outer part of one of these beads. And I'm right next to a little thread right here. So I'm just going to slide my needle through that thread. I'm going to tie a half hitch knot. This is going to be the back of my pendant, not the front. And I've already burned off the my starting thread, by the way. Now I go through here and I'm going to leave myself a little loop, and then go through that loop with my needle, tie that tight. And I'm going to do that again. I'm going to go through that thread bridge right there. Leave myself a little loop, and then go through that loop, my thread, tie that tight, and now I can burn that off. And my pendant is almost done. I'm going to need to make a little bit of a bail so that I can attach my beaded chain to that. So let's scooch back a little bit. I'm going to move this out of the way. I used a darker colored piece of felt, or it's actually not felt, it's like kind of a velvety thing, so that you could see my thread and these needles against the light, a dark background instead of against a light background, because it would be a little more difficult to see all that way. All right, so now I've got my focal. I'm going to pick one of these drop beads for my little bail to complete this focal, and then we're going to start linking these guys together. With all of that all of these other links that I already made. I've got 4 of the seed beaded diamond links for each side, and then we'll have 5 of these for each side. And then for the earrings that I'm going to be making, I have a couple of these. I went ahead and chose pink because I like it the best. The earrings are also going to have these guys going with them, and I think I might need some yellow beads, but I can grab some seed beads for that. So for this, for the focal, I'm going to grab some more of my beading wire. All right, and stretching this out, straightening it out. And I'm going to go ahead and just cut off what I need for this. I'm going to need about 5 inches of my 22 gauge wire. I'm going to make a wrapped loop that is attached to this part of my focal. Same way I made the wrapped loop before, bend it back, bring the wire over the top, rotate and around, just like that. Now before I start wrapping it, I'm going to swing this loop open like that, so I can attach my pendant to it. Swing that closed, and then use my fingers to do a little bit of wrapping. Like that. Okay, just familiarizing myself with which is the front and which is the back. There we go. Now I'm going to do a double loop on the top of this, but first I'm going to need a couple more beads. So I'm just going to grab a couple of these bright yellow beads, just 2 of them. And then I'm going to put this drop on with the narrow part facing down and the fat part facing up. Like that. And then we're going to add that second seed bead. All right. Now, let's do a little bend. I want to give myself a little bit of room for some fancy wire wrapping. So I'm going to hold this over to the side. I'm going to bend that over the top. And for this, actually let's bend it a little bit deeper. I want that bend to go down. I want it to have more of an angle down. Put my pliers up here. I'm going to wrap that around the top there. So that it bends over here to the side, like the first part of a little bow tie. Now that I've got that bow tie made, I'm going to hold that with the pliers, wrap my wire around once, straighten this out a little bit more. Actually, let's go twice. All right. And I'm going to hold these pliers over here on the other side. Make sure I've got the right part of it that I'm holding it on. Bring it around a second time. Let's make a little bow tie. Right now I'm just trying to get my loops to be a little bit more like each other. There we go. I'm going to hold on to these loops. Start wrapping my wire around and down towards my beads. Like that. And now that I've got my little double connector bail, I can start connecting my links together. I'm going to do that by opening and closing some jump rings and connecting these guys in the order that I want them to be in. So we're going to start with one of my golden yellow and turquoise links. You know what I think I might do is build my links first and then connect them to the focals. So let's just put that with one of my beaded links and swing that closed. Oh, it'll be a little less stuff trying to swing around and get in the way of all of these things. Yeah, love that. Absolutely love the way that that looks. this is basically what I'm going to be doing, is just opening and closing, adding my wire wrapped links with my bead woven links. And then after I finish this whole length, I'll attach it here. We'll do the same thing for the other side. This is a really fun project. It is a little bit, it does take a little bit of time because you've got to do the bead weaving, you've got to make all of these links, but if you want to have something that you can do that'll take some time, that you can start and it'll be really easy to make several little components in a day while maybe you're watching a movie or a show, something to keep your hands busy. It's a really great fidget kind of a project if you would like to do that sort of thing. Let's close this up a little bit better. And one more. I didn't open that wide enough. Let's do it a little bit better. There we go. All right. I'm going to connect this to one of my loops. I just did a real quick fit check and that is going to fit perfectly. Really happy about that. I'm going to do the very same thing with these, and I'll meet you back here so we can add our clasps and then do some earring magic. All right, so I've got both of these strands connected, and I even managed to remember which direction to go in so that they're not reversed in order. I've done that before. Some of you have seen me do that before. So you've got those ready to go, and I've got a little lobster clasp and a jump ring or two that I'm going to be using to attach a clasp to the back of this. We could do a wire wrapped clasp, but I kind of feel like after all the work that I put for each of these links, let's just keep it easy for my closures. And I'm just going to put a loop on this end for attaching the jump ring to, or attaching the lobster clasp to. The lobster clasp will work to connect to that loop, but I like having a little extra ring there. So we're using that, and then we'll jump ring, lobster clasp. I always test a lobster clasp before I put it on, and I did test this earlier. It works great. Now I have a seriously sassy 60s necklace with beading on it. So much beadwork, so many bright colors. It's absolutely just like a joyful design, I feel. So let's go ahead and switch gears a little bit and do some earrings. I have a couple of ball head pins, some ear wires, two more of my triangle connectors, and two of these teal drops. I'm gonna grab some more of these seed beads. Let's go with these yellow seed beads. I just need 4 of these. And it's just to add a little bit of yellow accent onto these drops. So I'm going to start with, yeah, that should work. Yellow seed bead right there on this ball head pin. The drop and another yellow seed bead. I am going to need to do a loop on this. And I think I'm going to just grab my round nose pliers to make my loop. Right here. I'm going to tip this over to the side, push this up and around, rotate my pliers, and bring it all the way around. I'm going to do a wrapped loop on this, and I'm going to use more of my jump rings to connect this with my link there. Go. Snip my excess wire off of that. Do this again a second time, a little bit closer in if you'd like, so that you can see exactly what I'm doing with this. So I've got my seed bead, my drop, and my seed bead, and then my round nose pliers. I'm holding it next to the beads, and then I'm just going to tip over to the side just to do a little bit of a bend. I use my fingers to push it around, but you can use another set of pliers for that. I definitely use another set to wrap around. It is a little bit awkward trying to keep it in the camera frame, so I've got some excess. It doesn't need to be a lot of wrapping, just enough to hold this on, to hold it together, to get it together. I do have a pokey outy bit right there. There we go. That I wanted to take care of. All right, so now the rest of this, super easy to put together since I already made this connector earlier. I can just use my jump ring. I could go grab a smaller jump ring if I wanted, but I think this one will do. Connect my connector and my drop. You could, if you wanted to, wire wrap your loop on to the connector. It feels like it's a lot of extra work. So I'm just gonna add it like that. Adjust my seed beads a little bit. And then grab my ear wire. Swing that open. Swing it open a little bit more. There we go. And I'm just going to attach this to my beaded connector like that. And now I have an earring that will go with my necklace. Let's go ahead and put the other one together. Since we are right here, we've got all of our pieces. And I'm not in a hurry. Hope you guys aren't either. Let's put these both together so you can see them. I'll do a try on later today. Today's Sunday. And if you miss it, there will be replay. And that way you can see what it looks like on. There we go. If you would like to check out Sam's Bead Box, I will put a link in the description below. You can find some of these beads, if they have them available in the box extras, they do have extras of the entire box at Sam's Bead Shop. If you're a subscriber, though, you do get your boxes at a significant discount. And so if you want to subscribe to Sam's Bead Shop or Sam's Bead Box, I'll put a link to that as well. I have a code that you can use to get $5 off of your first box. I believe it's just Becky. And that will get you, again, $5 off your first box. I love Sam's Bead Box. It is one of my favorite bead subscriptions. It is always a joy to work with. Until next time, wait. Almost forgot. I wanted to let you guys know that I'm going to be doing a class with Rachel. Not this coming Friday, but the Friday after that. And I've got a really delicious, gorgeous little project planned to share with you. And it'll be really fun. And I promise there won't be any bead weaving. It will be mostly just using beading wire, and we're going to do some stringing, but we might do a little bit of fancy stringing. So I hope you guys are looking forward to that as well, and I'll see you then. And until next time, happy beading.